Well, we made it. Here you are, the last session of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we hope that we can keep it as interesting as possible so there's not a mass exodus halfway through. It's been a very interesting day. I've learnt a lot, and I've been doing this for 13 or 14 years, so I get a bit skeptical about whether I'm going to hear anything new, but I've heard a lot of new things today. But I'm a bit of a simple soul, and I scratch my head a bit about circular supply chain. I understand circular economy, and for me, circular economy involves not just the packaging, that involves the product, the producer, the logistics companies, the retailer, and at the end of the day, why we're here, the consumer. I wonder whether the consumer gets the circular supply chain or gets circular economy. One of the recent surveys in Europe showed that they're very confused by many of the labels and messages that we're giving them on packaging, and that doesn't help them recycle and reuse. But I'm the simple soul. I have a panel of wonderful experts here, a representative from a major food company, a representative from a major pharmaceutical chemical company, the company that probably puts more RFID inlays and labels on products on the planet. And at last, we have a machinery person. I'm delighted with that, because we have too often in the packaging industry, we tend to ignore the machinery guys until we get to the end of the process. So I'm delighted that our friend from Rovema is with us, because he can bring some insights that we haven't maybe had any of over the course of today. I'm very looking forward to hearing your perspectives. I have a couple of questions. I mean, what does the consumer expect? What do the retailers expect? I mean, for example, Amazon, who I believe were going to be here but unfortunately couldn't make it in the end, have a myriad of products. They sell millions of products every day. They have a whole department which is looking at the transparency aspects, because they have so many problems with counterfeiting. So how do we address those issues? Looking at it from a consumer and possibly the Amazon perspective, or e-retailers and retailers in general. So I'm going to start the proceedings with my much better informed experts, with Mr. Bhimber. Then we'll move on to Bayer, and then Avery, and last but not least, the Rovema, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Andrew. And thanks the organizer for keeping the best thing at the end. Let me start with the first question which you have asked. What is a circular economy? We have been speaking all day about recyclable laminates, recyclability or compostability, but let's understand what is circular economy. To a layman, I'll give you a stepwise where it starts from. It starts from ideation. Then, on the basis of that ideation, sourcing happens. Whichsoever product is there, we manufacture that product. Marketing and sales promotes that product and ship it into the market. The product reaches to the consumer. It doesn't end here when it comes to circular economy. The consumer consumes the products and then he disposes that product. Post that, on the nature of that particular product or the packaging, either it is recycled or it is decomposed. When it is recycled, again it comes into that particular circular manner. So that is called circular economy. When we talk about ideation, there is when all the packaging professional comes into picture. They design the concept in a way that the material which is being sourced, either it is a recycled material or a material which can be further recycled. And so on the process follows. Now, why these things are seems to be a new right now, because people work in silos. Packaging one will make a certain structure. They say that this is the best structure. Till the time it reaches to the marketing for the commercials, it will get rejected. Whatsoever be the benefit, it will get rejected. So here is when we talk about circular economy. It's a collaborative effort first inside the brand owners. And then there will be a chain of information which is being sent into the brand, and then information which is being sent to the consumers. How we are to dispose this particular packaging material. What are the do and don'ts with this packaging material? I think that is more important to understand how we will take it further. Ideally, I would not start it from the ideation stage. I would go from the recyclable stage, and then I will look forward for what I have to design. I have a very small case study which we did in my previous organization, and the product was very less valued product. I could not have that leverage to put additional cost onto it and design a specific laminate which will be recyclable. But that was the mandate from the top management that yes, we are supposed to do that. So first thing is the intent was clear that we are going to do it, whatsoever be the cost is. And few of the converters are still there in this room. They helped us out with developing a monolayer structure in what we were using as a PET poly structure. With the passage of time, we did some further more developments, we did down gauging, and we found that the monolayer laminate went cheaper than the PET poly laminate. So what we achieved was a cost saving, and market returns was less as compared to a PET poly laminate, because there was a pouch bursting happening in PET poly laminate. Poly, there was no bursting. So with the intent being clear, what you are supposed to do, and you have all the things in place, you need to collaborate with the vendors, you need to collaborate with the internal stakeholders, be it procurement, be it packaging development, and the marketing. So that is, I can sum it as a circular economy with an example.
Yeah, thank you for explaining it so nicely, and good evening, everyone. So we knew about the circular economy. So I just want to explain why circular economy is important and how it benefit to the customer, like how we can improve the customer experience from the circular economy and the transparent supply chain. So I'll explain with I'll start with the history. So like from where this transparent supply chain or circular economy word came. So it came from a book named as The Jungle that was written in 1900 from Upton Sinclair. So the word derived from there, and it is working very good in current scenario. And along with that, there are few research articles also mentioned, and the surveys also mentioned the importance of the transparent supply chain and the circular economy. So the Food Industry Association did one study in 2020, and as per that, more than 65% of the customer want to switch from the product to the product that is talk more about their transparency in the supply chain. And similarly, like more than 85% of the customer want to know from where the companies are sourcing their ingredient. That study is did by British Beauty Council. So that's how the circular economy and the transparency in the supply chain is important. So there are many benefits and how we can achieve the transparency in the supply chain. So there are, so if I talk about only packaging, so there are few companies who are already doing great in this space. So though they are very less presence in India, but they are doing it in Europe. So there is one law is coming up also in Europe in 2027. So one company I knew that is named R-Cycle. So they basically provide the one service that is named as digital passport. So they basically print a QR code on the pack so that whenever any user try to scan the QR code, it provides all the information related to the packaging material, start from the process, from where, from which it is manufactured, and all type of polymers, ingredients, and even to the extent they provided their MSDS, TDS. So except recipe of that polymer, everything is available on the R-Cycle. So that's the one thing they are promoting in Europe, and it is adapting on the other part of the world as well. And the other thing...
Can you finish up soon?
Sorry?
Can you finish up soon so I can pass it on?
Yeah. So the benefits of this that we'll get, so when we provide the information on every part of the product, like from where we source the ingredient, from where we source the packaging material and the ingredients of the packaging material, how it will be transported, how it will be stored. So it enabled us to share our confidence to our customer, and customer also see these kind of things, and they're confident on the companies, like they are basically practicing the ethical things. So that also build the confidence and increase in the brand loyalty in the customers. And during the establishment of the transparent supply chain, we get to know about everything related to our supplier and supplier of the suppliers. So in case of anything fishy we see, so that will also reduce the cost and the risk related to the continuity of the business. So I see the transparency and the circular supply chain is one of the most important factor when we consider for any product development.
Thanks very much. On to our friend from Avery.
Thanks, Andrew, for these questions. And good evening, everybody. I think we are just 4 panelists falling between you and your freedom, pun intended. To your first question, Andrew, I think as the name suggests, circularity means having to hold a product within the chain for a little longer than what it is today. It's kind of designing a product to an extent that it can be reused, recycled, and reutilized. And then, of course, there are mechanisms to reuse the products, recycle the products. All of this falls part of the circular supply chain. However, there are other things that falls also as important as circular supply chain. But I would like to comment on a couple of things here, that within the context of circular supply chain, I think tracking and recording the event data of the product's life cycle is very critical. Because without having to record the data and know about the piece of information that is there of that product, it's not really possible for us to track and be transparent of that particular product. Now, the information could include, but not limited to, the composition of the material, the genesis of the material, the places and the hops where it has been scanned and moved from one place to another, from manufacturer, supplier, retailer, consumer. So all of that falls part of the circular supply chain. And there are technologies that contributes to the circular supply chain, starting with the digital product passport, if I were to talk about. This is something which creates a digital twin of a product that helps you collect, collate, and contextualize the data of that product, know about that product in detail, understand where it is right now and how it can possibly be reused. So there are multiple actors in the entire value chain who plays a certain role. So as an end customer or as an end consumer, I think the first most important thing is for me to understand that if the product that I'm buying is genuine or not, so that I should be assured of that this is not a counterfeit product. That's number one. Number two, of course, I wanted to understand what is the composition of the product. Is it the same that what has been committed? Where has that been scanned, and the overall flow of the product? So I think circular supply chain has, like I said, has many actors, where every actor has to play a certain role. Government plays a very critical role here, where they kind of have the compliances and regulations to put forward to. So overall, I think the circular supply chain is something which rolls up to the environment-friendly, sustainability and eco-friendly environment, which is a future-proof solution. And anything to everything that we develop, I think it's more for tomorrow. It's something that is driven and conceptualized today only to give a positive result tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, good evening. So the machinery perspective on what we have discussed so far. So I'll try and quickly, briefly focus on smart and sustainable both. To give you an idea about what's happening on the machinery sector, today when you use a packaging machinery, the machinery is dumb and the operator is smart. What does that mean? The operator has to tell the machine at what temperature you have to seal, how long you have to seal. There's a host of parameters that he has to set. I was talking to somebody during the coffee break. He said, my engineer went and the customer got the production. He came back 2 days later, the production was down to 60% and the customer was calling us. The smart machines are one where you simply say, I want to pack brand A, say 10 tons, and the machine says, I'm ready, and it sets itself. And it will even tell you that 3:45, I will finish the production of 5 tons that you want. But it actually finishes the production only at about 7 o'clock in the evening. So it tells you why it took extra time, so that your maintenance and production team can get together and see how to achieve the productivity or the OEE that the equipment needs. That's the first thing. The second very important thing is, from a trust point of view, I just give you a slightly different dimension of trust. There was a very large company, I think the representative was here. They approached us and they wanted to launch a new product where 3 different components, it was a food product, and they had to fill 3 different components at different proportions. And they came to me and said, can you do this? We said, yes, we'll do it. We developed a machine, and we packed it, and they launched the product, and they were successful. And they came back to us for some more equipment, and suddenly they felt they should try another equipment. They tried, and they started getting market complaints. And what they found out was the taste of the product had changed. And when they investigated further, the fill accuracies of the 3 components had varied with the new equipment to give a different taste. So they came back to us and they said, we'd like to continue to buy from you. So the trust product is when somebody is buying a food product, he just not only trusts that the product is good, the weight is good, but he is also looking at the taste in this particular case, whether I will get the same taste, and maybe you invited a guest that day and suddenly it doesn't taste the same way it did. Coming to the second topic of sustainability, you have selected your film, but will it run on your existing machines? Whoever is on a sustainable journey has got a legacy of certain equipments bought over a period of time. How are you going to manage those transitions with the new film that you are planning to introduce? And there are 2 major problems in this journey, and we are constantly engaged with customers. We have worked with some of them and helped them get over the line. The first problem is sustainable films are far more temperature sensitive than the multi-layer laminates. So your equipment, the tolerance and the deviation from the set temperature had to be bare minimum. So otherwise, you will have a burn on one side, not sealed properly on another side. So this is a challenge that you will face. The second and very important challenge that people face is, I have a sustainable film, I'm able to pack, I'm able to fill, but my outputs are down 30%. And this is not acceptable to the top management. So the manufacturer decides which film to use. And then they come to us and said, Mr. Ravi, please, I want to achieve this speed. Can I even do 5% more, but at least the same speed? And many times it is a challenge. So these are 2 parameters where you will have to partner with your machinery supplier. And if possible, make him a partner while you are making a choice of film. Somebody said we work as a silo. That's spot on. Last point, which I want to do, is just take a minute, is trust and transparency. Today, what is trust? You deliver what you promise. But do you know what have you done? So it's possible today to acquire all kinds of data directly from the equipment program it to go to the people who are concerned. So if there is any complaint, you can find a date and time stamp and find out whether this product was produced on which equipment, by whom, under what conditions. And then you can figure out, are there any loopholes in your systems? So I think equipment manufacturers can play a very important role in this whole journey of smart and sustainable packaging. The important thing is to involve them at the right time.
Okay, thank you very much. Some very interesting perspectives along the panel. Does that provoke any questions at this particular moment in time? You can't all have gone to sleep. Come on. There's a lady down in the front there. Please state your name and also if you're aiming it at everybody or you're aiming it at a specific person.
Hello, my name is Rajashree from Glenmark Pharmaceutical. So my question is to Bhupesh. As you said, there is a law coming in Europe for recycling or for supply chain. So any law is coming in India so that we can minimize the gap between manufacturer and the distributor. Because what is happening, manufacturer is producing a genuine product, but something is wrong happening at the level of distribution. So any law or any rules and the guidelines is coming up in the future so that the chain will be tightened.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and even it's a great question. So, so in Europe and US, there are so many laws and rules are coming. So being a global healthcare company, so we basically work closely with our global colleagues. So we get to know about the rules, and sometimes we feel that some rules came to India first and then the Western people following it, like the recycled content thing, which Mr. Gera mentioned. And other than that, related to the topic, the supply chain transparency and the other things. So yeah, this rule is coming to Europe. As far as I know, it is coming in 2027. So it will start from UK and then it will go to the full Europe. And similarly, the rules related to greenwashing is also coming. So that is also related to trust and transparency. So whatever you are claiming on the pack, it should be as per the claims and the commitments. And similarly, there are a few rules. So in your last question, you talk about the standardization of the global rules and other things. So, so I'm closely associated with GS1, and they are doing some great things. So in year 2027 itself, so they are eliminating the EAN13 barcode from all the packs in the Europe itself. So, so they are planning to introduce digital link, which basically replace the barcode, and it will be in the form of QR code. So we can generate the URL also, and it can be basically fill the gap of whatever we are feeling, we are having now with respect to the supply chain transparency and other things. So many new rules are coming related to the safety and toxicology and protection of the product, and most of the things are related to the customers only. So, so from our perspective, we can also have a close eye on the other markets, what other rules are coming, and we can make ourselves ready so that when the rules comes to India, we can work in accordance to the requirement, and we'll be the first to comply with the requirement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would any of the other panelists like to add anything to that, or shall we seek another question?
So we, just to add on to this,
well, I'll take you as soon as...
just to add on to this point, when we seek for governance body to govern some rules and regulations, that is okay, that's unforced. Your question was from manufacturer to distributor. Okay, if there is a scenario where distributor is selling off spurious product or counterfeited products, so it also depends on the brand owners, how they protect their brands. It's not leaving something to a government body, that government body will do what? So government body will enforce some laws that this person is selling off some spurious product and he'll be behind bars or some penalties and all. But as a brand owners, we also should think about what our packaging is, what is the scale of the product is, and then decide on to what the correct counterfeiting measure we are putting on to that packaging material. Be it a QR code, be it a holographic sticker, or maybe some changes to the printing design, introduction of galoche pattern. So all these things are available in market. Is just what right decision we need to take. Again, it circle backs to a composite approach towards a product development, which cannot be in silos. Something which we design, if I am a packaging development professional, if I design, it has to be sold by somebody else, procured by somebody else. So it's a collaborative effort. And I don't think so that we should always seek for government bodies that they should govern some rules onto it. It's our brand at the end of the day, and the business suffers for it if there is a spurious product in the market. So as a smart packaging technologist and buyers and marketing professionals all across, it's our collaborative responsibility to think through and then design it.
Okay, thank you. Take the next question. Your name and if you're aiming it at someone specific.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Harsh Mehta and I'm an MBA student from SPJ Institute of Management and Research. My particular question to Mr. Gurpreet and anyone else who can answer, zooming out from the packaging a bit and just concentrating on the point of scope 3 emissions, and since you head procurement, I wanted to know what are the steps that brand owners or manufacturers are taking to ensure transparency in your suppliers so that you can minimize your scope 3 emissions particularly.
Can you elaborate scope 3 emission, please?
The emissions that your suppliers and your supplier generate, which actually amounts to the emission that your products are in turn having on the environment.
This emission thing is something which is very dicey in entire scenario. What emission rates are there, I particularly don't know, to be very honest. And if you ask any supplier that what is the final emissions they are doing, it's still very dicey. It's still very dicey. But as far as a responsible company, what best the purchasers do is they go to the suppliers and they ensure that the premises is having all the certifications in place, the government certifications are in place. Are they keeping good care of their employees? Any harassment of that level? Any child labor? So these are certain basic steps which the purchasers follow while developing a vendor. They generally don't go into what are their emissions rates. For yes, do they have their pollution control license in place? Yes, it should be there. But not that deep that you are going into their emission rates and their energy consumption rates. As on date, our company is not doing it. Maybe other companies, if they are doing it, you can have a view from.
Yeah, and there's another thing that I can add on top of it is that for having to curb the emission in the supply chain would be relatively difficult because there are required hops, and then, it has to travel through a proper life cycle. But what we could do is that if we are reusing that same material and same product, we're actually doing away with the reproduction, starting away all the way from scratch, right? So this will help curb down on reproducing and while reutilizing and refurbishing the existing material. So I think with that, the emission thing can be controlled, but supply chain will have to travel through a certain hops, which is the prerequisite as determined through the product life cycle.
Just to add a slightly different dimension to that, we are talking about sustainability, which means moving towards films that can be recycled, right? But there are many challenges. So the first important thing is to use less packaging. So I can tell you as a machinery supplier, no matter what you're packing, 5 to 15% reduction in packaging is possible with everything being the same. All you need to do is to get together with your machinery supplier and start talking.
Yeah. With the permission of chair, just to add to what Mr. Bhimber said, for your answer, these kind of studies, what we call as GHG, greenhouse gas studies or LCS studies, these are done as a collaborative effort between the machinery supplier and blah, blah, blah. And you have to decide, earlier they were cradle to grave, now it is cradle to cradle. So you have to decide the boundaries, and then it is a very detailed study. It cannot be done, as he rightly said, it just cannot be done by vendors or suppliers. It has to be agreed upon. These are my limits. So it takes months or that kind of efforts. Thank you.
Just to add, I will take 1 minute. So what you have expected to, I don't know whether you got the answer or not, I don't know. You haven't got the answer. So there are two parts to it, just to make it simplify. So there are two aspects. One is when you are designing something, your question, what I understood, okay, whether we are responsibly buying or not, so that it is already emissionless. We are talking about net zero, right? By certain period of time. So whether we are following that norms or not. So specific to your question, if I give answer, some extent it is happening. To give you an example, if I talk about one laminate GSM, I don't know how much you are, because you are MBA student, so I am talking about GSM means the simple language, layman thickness. So if your thickness of laminate, suppose you are eating Lays or some chips, whatever you are eating, so if the thickness is more, so you are getting less number of pouch in 1 kg. So as a responsible producer or developer, if I reduce the thickness of that laminate, I am getting more number of pouches in a kg. So my carbon emission automatically get reduced.
Yeah, I'll let you have a comeback for 30 seconds. Yeah? Yeah?
Then, like we are sitting on the same table, so our time get divided. But on a serious note, what he said is how you to capture those carbon. Carbon neutrality is a big subject. People there know better than us. But then you define how you're capturing those carbon. So, maybe we can discuss offline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll cut you off there, sir, because I want to get the panel involved rather than you've had your moment in the sun. Have we got one more question? Because I've got 5 minutes left and I want to finish on time, and it would be nice to finish off with a question for the panelists. Okay, I'll ask one thing. We put together trust and transparency, and that sounds quite nice. But in the practical world, we have the means to offer transparency. We know how to do. We've got all the products to offer blockchains and QR codes and barcodes and now digital link, and now we're going to have digital product passports. But how do we build that trust? How does trust come with transparency? Do the consumers get that?
So somebody asked for the blockchain. You also mentioned blockchain. So blockchain is a set of data which cannot be changed throughout the system. As on date, the current scenario is we have a long journey to go. We are still evolving with the data capturing. The first step itself, marketing gathers the data for their own purpose. They only want to see the customers. They are not bothered with where the product is being sourced from, where the packaging material is being sourced from, what is the raw material. That information is not collected. So we have a long journey for the blockchain to be fully implemented in entire supply chain process. But yes, it is very much possible. And right now, the scenario which shows is with the modern trade coming in picture, the things would be much more simpler in implementation. But again, I would like to add on this line, we are way behind what it should be. It's a long journey for the blockchain and AI to come into the picture when we talk about packaging as a circular economy.
Let's not even begin to go to AI at this particular moment in the day. I'd love to have a bigger discussion on that. Anyway.
Yeah. So I can add to my fellow panelists that transparency is built over time. It's not something, trust and transparency, that can come overnight. We are starting this journey, and it's something which will take its own time to transition own time to transpire also into the reality. Now, blockchain, the RFID, they all happen to be the technologies supporting in this circular supply chain. However, I think the first most important thing is the psychological change, which will bring in a lot of difference to what today the whole governance is. So be it any law or anything for that matter, if the human psychology is not different, is not ready to accept and adapt, I think nothing can work around it. However, there are certain mechanisms to do it. Typically when COVID showed up and nobody would don the mask unless government applied a 500 rupees fine on top of it, right? So everybody started using that mask, and then it became a kind of muscle memory for everybody to start using it, and they knew the importance of it. Similarly, in this scenario, I think the government needs to chime in, put some regulations and compliances, and also then the consumer has to have a sort of mindset where they understand the importance of sustainability, eco-friendly, and all of those things. And of course, with the right set of laws, regulations, and the compliances, it will all contribute up to the greater success of circular supply chain. And just the last point I would like to mention here is that RFID, I think, is one of the critical factor here that has to play a role, right? So RFID happens to be something which allows a product to be attached with a unique digital ID, which cannot be replicated, which cannot be used again. It's just the unique piece. Now, for having to have this RFID in the ecosystem will attract a lot of transparency and trust among the players, be it consumers, manufacturers, or every single actor across the supply chain. So I think for a particular thing to be passed in the supply chain, it will take its time. But I think the RFID tags, that we are expert of, can play a vital role in the whole ecosystem.
Bhupesh, can you
I also want to add.
sum it up at the same time? I'm going to come down the line if you want to say what you want to say about that, and then sum up what you feel. Yeah.
So I also want to add one thing. So it depends on our mindset, like how transparent we can be in front of our consumer. There are several tools available. So one I mentioned is R-Cycle. So the company who basically established the Open AI, they also created one tool that is named as OpenSC. So this is open supply chain. So that tool also helps in creating the transparent supply chain. And also, there are a few regulations from the ISO 26000 that basically talks about the social responsibility of the companies and the customers. And another ISO regulation is 14001 that talks about the transparent supply chain transparency in the management system. So there are so many things are available. It depends on us, whatever we want to adapt or whatever, or we can take it casually. So it depends on the mindset of us, like in which direction we want to go.
Okay, thank you. Last thoughts, Ravi? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think from what I have seen happening in the industry is a few big companies are moving forward, the others are taking baby steps. So I would always say first reduce, replace, and then go into the last step of being transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Bhupesh, you got any last thoughts?
Yeah. So
30 seconds worth.
Though I have completed, but like you mentioned, so transparency in the supply chain, I think it is the second thing. First, we concentrate on the 3 R's of the sustainability: reduce, reuse, and recycle. That's how we can make our packaging best. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll not take much of time. I'll say right intent and right methodology will make things possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I echo the same, that with the right set of mindset, we can spearhead into the circular supply chain and ecosystem to make it more eco-friendly and sustainable going further, with all the hops covered pretty effectively.
Well done. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a privilege to be on the same stage as you. You're obviously very well informed about your topics, and I'm a jack of all trade and a master of none, and I feel quite humbled by that. Can I just say, this I picked up outside, which is a lovely little thing, a stirrer. If you put this into a European hotel at the moment, they'd have a fainting fit because it's plastic. It's possibly a bit difficult to recycle. I'm sure it can be reused, and I'm from the camp that says, please don't make any paper straws, I like the plastic ones. But it just shows you the different perspectives about what is and what isn't a sustainable product. We thank you for your attention. Thank you again for my wonderful panel, and good evening.